SnowFlower Spring Day of Mindfulness, April 2023. First the Ecstasy, then the Laundry, with Rosebud's Fire.
Well, really good to see everybody here and be able to practice with you. So can I just check the people who are furthest from me? You hear me okay? All right. So my talk is going to be, I titled it First the Ecstasy, then the Laundry. And this is the title of a book by Jack Kornfield that I have not happened to, I didn't read it. But I like the title. And the story of the title is that quite a while ago, he was in India, I believe, on a long retreat with a teacher who just had a very high level of practice and, kind of reached states of real ecstasy and peace and nirvana. And he was very impressed with her. And at some point during the retreat, people were doing some tasks of things that needed to be done. And the teacher was hanging the laundry. And he saw her doing it, and he noticed that she was hanging the laundry in an ecstatic manner. She was just in ecstasy as she was hanging the laundry. And so that was a real Dharma teaching for him. And so there's the name. And so as the title says, it's first the ecstasy, then the laundry. So I'm going to first talk about the ecstasy. And in starting to talk about that, I kind of ask people to think about what is your intention in following your practice? What is your intention? And certainly we can say, what's your intention today? Doesn't have to be what was your intention when you started, but here you are now, you're practicing. What is your intention? There's no right and wrong answer. It's a matter of understanding yourself. So it's not like you'd understand yourself and say, oh, that's not good. It's just understand yourself. It may be you're just trying to follow a practice that'll make you feel more comfortable and peaceful. Maybe avoid having worries. Maybe you aren't sure why you're doing it. You just are doing it and something seems right about it. It doesn't matter what it is. But I would recommend to you to try to just understand what is your intention? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to understand or change about your life? Because a lot of our practice is very much about just understanding ourselves. As you look at a number of the sutras read things by Thich Nhat Hanh. Frequently, they're talking about becoming aware of your habit energies. Why? So that you can release yourself from them, release their grip on you. That's why. Noticing when you're just worrying about the past or worrying about what's going to happen next week when I have to do X, Y, and Z. And why do you want to notice those things? It's so you can stop paying attention to them. So trying to learn about yourself, that's our practice. And I think being, again, as you have undoubtedly read many times with Thich Nhat Hanh, he talks about being in the present moment. And I think what you find as you spend time trying to learn about yourself, learn about your own habits, learn about how you simply spend a lot of time thinking about tomorrow and yesterday, what you find is that it stops you from paying attention to the present moment. Because, for example, say you're sitting in your backyard on a nice day, and you don't have anything in particular you have to do for a couple hours, so you're just relaxing, enjoying yourself, enjoying that moment. But while you're sitting there not focusing on anything, you start really kind of regurgitating your thoughts about something that happened the day before with some friend of yours, and you're worrying about it. And while you're sitting there doing that, a butterfly comes and lands right on your leg. And maybe you don't even notice it because you're just thinking about yesterday. Or you see, oh, there's that butterfly. Oh, but yesterday this happened, and you don't have the presence of mind to just look at that butterfly and forget about the worries. So that's our practice, is to try to notice the things that pull us away from awareness of the present moment. And it's really hard to do that. Now, I'll say for me, as Margot said, I started practicing with SnowFlower about 20 years ago. But at that point, I'd been practicing Taoist meditation and movement practices, Qigong and Tai Chi, for 20 years already. And so I kind of came to it from that point of view. And it just so happened in my practice that in doing the Tai Chi and Qigong, it's very much a body practice. And that was what I learned from the teachers who taught me. And I started at a certain point feeling like I've kind of got a lot of what this is about, but I felt like I wanted something more. And I wanted, eventually I realized I want some spiritual side to this too. And so that was my motivation to get into Buddhist practice, sitting practice. I wanted some spiritual side to my life. I wanted to have my life be more informed by some sort of sacredness, some sort of awakening. Now I'll say that the practice of trying to understand what that meant and to get closer to that kind of a life has been kind of getting to know a certain ecstasy. And I'll recommend to all of you to like look at writings by Thich Nhat Hanh or any other teacher, and I think if you look carefully, there's always a place where they talk about how to meditate. Usually they're talking about here's the benefits of meditation, or here's the things you learn from meditating, but they don't often like just say, well, here's how you actually do it. But they do say it. And so, in some of the sutras, the Buddha talks about, sitting quietly with a very erect back, open spine, a head uplifted. Thich Nhat Hanh says the same stuff. And I would say I have found, and I, recommend it to you to really try to take the time during your meditation practice, maybe for a week, say, do it for a week, is to really try to sit like you are Thich Nhat Hanh, or you are some really noble teacher. And the first time you do it, it will feel difficult, or it'll feel a little phony, or it'll feel just a little weird. But if you do it repeatedly for like a whole week, I think you'll notice it really makes a difference. And like I was kind of saying during the beginning of the guided meditation this morning, that whole thing of trying to just lean forward until you feel, oh, I'm tipping forward and back, and try to find that exact balance point. It really is a matter of trying to have your lower spine, like your sacrum, be so relaxed that you're just peaceful. And you have to kind of wiggle around to find the spot. And you have to not find that spot and say, oh, there it is, got it. Because you're going to be there, and 2 or 3 breaths later, you're going to have to adjust and find it again, and find it again. And part of the value of doing that is that it's something for your crazy mind to pay attention to. And because I think, as maybe one of the, kind of most common impediments to being fully peaceful and awake in the present moment is that your mind keeps coming up with things. And as we always say, you're sitting there, you're meditating, your mind comes up with some thoughts, you notice that's what's happening, just let them go. No judgment, just go back to sitting. But it happens again, but it happens again. Yeah, that's how it goes. But if you have something else to pay attention to, in a way, I think it's just true that your mind only has such and such a bandwidth. And if your mind is busy paying attention to how balanced and relaxed your spine is, it doesn't have quite as much open space to get into worrying about this and that. And it also creates the opportunity to be in the present moment. So, the present moment is incredibly short. Right? And so if you're paying attention to your balance, and then again to the balance, and then again to the balance, and again to the balance, and again to the balance, it feels continuous. And if you can really stay there, you can notice the slightest deviation. Oh, I'm starting to tip. Oh, I bring myself back. Oh, I'm getting a little sleepy. Oh, I open up my chest just a little bit and just feel my breath. You end up being more aware of your body, having your mind be more calm because you're just paying attention to your body and your breath. And I found from, reading just sometimes I feel like way too many Dharma books, listening to teachers, is that the truth of the matter is that almost all the stuff they say is things that they have realized through meditation. And they say, it's like the Eightfold Path, the 5 mindfulness trainings. These are all things that through meditation, the Buddha realized them, so he told them to people. Thich Nhat Hanh realized them, and he expanded them and made them like huge paragraphs and told them to people. But just reading them and saying, oh, let's see, does he say this or did he quite say that? That's not how you're going to become like that. You're not going to embody that teaching by understanding the structure of the sentence. It's going to be by, really having an open, wide awake mind while you're meditating and realizing these things yourself. So, first the ecstasy and then the laundry. But first the ecstasy. So I'll just say from my own practice, really making an effort, having an intention to really be paying attention to the present moment, has led me to have many times where I'm sitting and meditating where I just get to like such a feeling of happiness and openness that it's ecstatic. I just feel really wonderful and loving towards everybody. It just happens on its own, and that can happen for you too. And another thing I just want to mention is part of the value of trying to be in that state of deep awareness is being able to have a real kind of visceral awareness of, the real truth of reality as described in Buddhism, which is that everything is constantly changing, nothing stays the same, yet everything is entirely interconnected. This includes that idea of non-self. The idea of non-self, there's no self because the thing that you call the self is constantly changing. So there's something there, but it's constantly changing. And it's hard to really feel like you can get a grasp on this because it's like the kind of thing where you try to pick it up and it just like slips through your hands all the time. An analogy that I have thought about that seems to kind of get at what it's like is the idea of a whirlpool in a creek. Like the water's coming down through some rocks and then there's like a whirlpool somewhere. And so like that whirlpool is there. You can look at it and say, there's that whirlpool. It's, it's been here for days, this whirlpool. You could get out a ruler and kind of measure it and say, it's 5 inches wide. It's 6 inches deep. The water's going through it at such and such speed. You could kind of have snapshot calculations about it that would be accurate. And yet, the actual stuff of that whirlpool is constantly going. It isn't there. It isn't really there. As soon as you look at it, off it goes. But it is there. So it's there and it's not there. it's like everything's changing, but here we are. You're here. I'm sitting here. You're sitting on chairs or cushions, but you are not really there. You're there in this moment, but gone the next. Here in this moment, gone the next. Remember, this moment's very short. So I've found that in a real deep state of concentration and calm mind, trying to just feel that sense of everything's connected and yet it's constantly changing. It's easier to feel that in a body sort of sense, not an intellectual sense, but just kind of feel it in a way that you can't quite put it in words, but you can kind of feel it. That's something you can get from deep meditation. So work on that, and get to the ecstasy. But then, so you do that, and let me just check my time here. 2:10. You do that, but, well then, you finish your meditation, the bell rings, you get up, you have breakfast, you go off to work. Well, then what? What happened to the ecstasy? So that's the big thing to really realize, and our practice can't ignore that. What a waste. We've done these practices that really have given us a transformational sense of reality and our own body, and the feeling that we can have and feel for other people. But then we're out there off the cushion and things are just happening and going on, and some of them are really wonderful, some of them are horrible, some of them are difficult, some are easy, but it's just on. And so can we bring that awareness of the ecstasy to our everyday interactions? So that's a big question. And like a Zen short story that somebody told me once. So he said, a monk comes up to the master and he says, I've been here at the temple for a month now. Please, master, won't you teach me something really meaningful? And the master says, have you finished eating your breakfast? Oh yes, master, I have. Then go wash your bowl. That's it. Do the laundry. You got all this stuff to do. And, I think that, the Four Noble Truths, the first truth is there is suffering. And what's that about? I would say what it's about is that you're constantly having to do things that weren't what you wanted to do, or that you definitely don't want to do, but you have to do them. It's like you spill all your coffee on the table in breakfast. Oh no, and I'm running late. You can't just run out and leave it there. You got to clean it up. That's a really simple little, not very irritating thing, but it's just an example. There's constantly things, and every one of them is, that's not what I wanted to do. But, definitely the big teaching of Buddhism is that's happening to us constantly. There's constantly things coming to us that have to be done, but it isn't what we want to do. And so we suffer because of that, because I don't want to do that now. But you have to. So how do you deal with it? And you don't deal with it by burying your irritation and having it explode later when your friend says hello and you scream at them or something. And so it's like learning how to accept that, oh, these things come up and I have to deal with them. So that's what our practice is about. It's about learning how to be really in the present moment. Like I was about to leave and go to work, and I was right on time and everything was great, but I spilled the coffee and now I got to clean it up. Say you had lots of time and you had a half an hour to clean up the coffee. That's plenty of time. You could clean the coffee up in a way that was like meditation if you wanted, moving kind of with intention and really experiencing the cloth and picking up the moisture, but you only have a few moments. Well, so do that more quickly. You can always do it. You can always do it. Now, I do want to emphasize that this practice is not about being just a doormat. So it's not about saying, well, whatever happens is fine, I don't matter. I'm just in bliss, and, my kid just got beat up at school and he comes home bloody. I don't mind. I'm in bliss about it. It's not that. It's not that at all. It just means you're right there in that moment. You got to deal with what's right in front of you. The whole idea of being in the present moment is that, what's happening right now, I'm right there, deeply listening, paying attention, and I'm interacting with it. I'm not thinking about the future or the past or trying to make it be something that it isn't. I'm just right there with it, interacting with it. And so that may mean very involved relationship. If something's happening that you really should stand up and say no, that's what you do right away. And then the big question becomes, well, how do you know if what you think is the immediate right, I don't even have to think about it, the perfect reply? How do you know? And that, of course, is the big question. That's the big question. And I think I definitely know the answer. And the answer is, you don't know. It definitely is, you don't know. And part of why you don't know is that the moment it happens, you respond somehow, and then a moment later, when you second guess it, well, that's the past. You don't really know anymore. Now it's a different thing. Maybe it's only changed a little tiny bit, but it isn't the same thing anymore. And so you have to, part of being in the present moment is recognizing that things always change and that everything's so interconnected that you just can't really tell. And like people who want to be able to have, be on top of everything and know, all right, I've got this totally covered. I'm gonna make sure everything happens just like this. Well, it just won't work. You might be really close. You might be far, but totally control it? No, it just won't happen. And so learning to just live your life with a level of acceptance that, well, that's life. There's so many things you don't really know. You can't really control it. And it may seem very disappointing to think, so I'm just going to accept that that's the way life is. Well, do you accept you can't swim under the ocean and breathe in the water? You do accept that. Can you accept you can't jump out of an airplane and just fly around like a bird? Well, these are just things that are part of our life. So that's our practice, is to say that this is it. This is the real existence, and our path is to learn how to live happily with that. And the way to do it is to be right there with what's happening. And that might not be what you were planning an hour ago, but nevertheless, you do what's the appropriate thing right at that moment. And try to do it with a level of attention and loving care that your ecstatic feeling from your meditation practice made you aware of. Draw upon that memory. Like when you're having things happen during your non-sitting meditation part of your life, and you can kind of, I feel like I'm getting irritated, or I feel like I'm getting resistant here. What I do is I go, oh yeah, and then I think back to, my practice that morning, and just pay a little attention to an inhale and an exhale, and the power of that crazy, irritating thing just really dwindles away. And this works at least 50% of the time. And I think if I could do it all the time, it'd be a higher percent. But it's an endless process. It's an endless process, and so I think really encourage yourself to keep working at it, because you will get better and better and better at it if you keep working at it. And will you end up being, a fully enlightened arhat like Shakyamuni Buddha? Well, I hope so, but I wouldn't, hold my breath about it. but getting better and better at it is definitely something that's fully out there for everybody, for all of us, for all the people you meet on the street, and certainly for yourself. So doing it for yourself is just such a wonderful thing, and when you do it for yourself, it just bubbles out and makes other people feel wonderful. So how could you complain about that? So, bang, I'm done. 2:10.